Okay, I think we shall begin. I am unmuting you all, and I just want to make sure that you can see my screen and that you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Excellent. And so welcome to the budget spread training. I don't know what you did hear or what you didn't hear, but this meeting, I am recording this so that others who missed this time might be able to look at it, if it all works correctly. So what I'm going to do is I am going to mute you all, and then every few minutes I will unmute you to allow to ask for questions. That's, that way we can control the feedback and other issues. So I'm going to mute you, and then we shall begin. Okay, so we shall begin, and this is the budget spread, and this is a process we did not get to last year, and this really is only going to be used for your clinical funds, although there's nothing stopping you from spreading your institutional funds or your designated funds. But the purpose of this is really for you to control what the PO, when they do their monthly reporting, what they show as your monthly budget versus actuals. So the goal is, with a proper budget spread, that it'll minimize the times that the PO business office will come back to you and say, hey, you have a variance of greater than X%. Why is that? And your response is usually, well, it's a timing thing. You guys spread it evenly, and our stuff is not even. So that's the whole purpose of this. The process is much simpler than the actual budget process, because really, all you're doing is spreading your existing budget. There is you cannot add or subtract to the budget. You can only spread it out over the months. So we shall begin. And the first thing you need to do is you need to go into the Wild Business Gateway. And if you then go to the folder, the binoculars, you'll see all your folders. And if you don't have them created already, you can go down to the budget development. And then you'll see the major forms that you use for budget development, the base request form and the new monies form you're familiar with, as well as the salary proposal form. So let's click on the budget spread. And actually, you will, see a very familiar screen. And it's the similar screen that you use to create your funds when you begin the budget process. And if you're coming in for the first time, you would click the New button. Once again, you'll come to the fund category, click the little box that has the little boxes, and you'll come down and select the PO. And then you can come in, and if you know your fund number, you can just type it in, or once again, you can come down, click the little box. You will only see the funds that you have access to. And so I can type in a number. Hit enter, and I'll come up to, I'll use this fund. I'd like to thank Gina and Jeff Fernandez for allowing me to use it as a demonstration. So we'll click on the PO operating. You'll then have to come in and type in a definition or a description. And as I've mentioned before, the reason why it's important to use a description is you can use it to search. And so if you put your name or a date or the fund number or anything that makes sense to you, it'll help you as you go through if you have lots of funds. So let me just put in. And I can hit create. And And as it goes through, you'll come back to pretty much a pretty similar looking screen that has various tabs, and we'll kind of go through those tabs. But pretty much you'll need to spread both your revenues and expenses. And so when this comes back, we shall begin. I apologize for the slowness of the system. I've let ITS know, and I think they are working on it. And as you can see, it's a very similar screen that you're used to. We can go to the expenditure spread, and we'll start there. And as you can see when you come in, so let me take this right now and unmute you all and ask if you guys have any questions.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No questions, then I shall continue. Okay, so what this shows is all the GLs that you have budgeted and the 2020 budget amount. You will see when you come in by default, there are no default spread methods. This will change once I go into the edit mode. But you will see that you have the 12 months. And in the June 2020, you will see essentially the full budget amount. The June 2020 column is essentially unwritable. And what that does is if you, it just essentially takes the remainder of the 11 months from the original budget. And I'll show you how that goes. So the 2020 will always be a balancing number that will automatically tie up to your budget. So if you go into the edit mode, and notice once again that there's a form ID and that there are stages and a request status. So, you know, it pretty much will operate like, you know, when you did your base request forms. And so when the system comes back, you will see that certain fields are grayed out, and that is because they are mostly salary related. And salaries, with the exception of supplemental comp, will be spread automatically by pay period. So you do not have to worry about spreading the academic base salaries as well as your exempt and non-exempt staff salaries. The only thing you need to worry about, if you need to spread differently, is your supplemental comp and any comp adjustment and the fringe benefits related to that. So the form is organized kind of like the base request form. There's an export button, which you can export out to a spreadsheet, work on the spreadsheet, and then upload, and then I'll do that. And this is a little simpler because there are no hidden columns that you need to expand. There's line text if you want to add notes. Here's the upload data button once you finish with the spreadsheet, and then a refresh button. And then you come down to the global spread method. This will put the same spread method, with the exception of the salaries, to all of the GLs. And when you come down to the selection box, you will see that there are 5 options. Even, which I think divides by 12. Days, which looks at the relative number of days during the month. Pay periods, which divide by 26.2. The history, which looks at how it was spent last year. And then an entry is a free form. So you can always go through in any white column, you can always go through and put in your own amount. So just for this example, I'm going to start with even. And actually then you can see how the even got loaded, and that you can see that there are pay periods for the locked salary. And they'll kind of come through, and it'll then kind of go through, and based upon the global spread method you choose, calculate everything, and that's what it's doing now. Now, I will say that while it's calculating, you'll be, once it's done calculating, you can go into any individual GL and select the spread method. So the even way is just a kind of a way to get you started, kind of like And also kind of like the budget process. You can always go through and, choose one way and then change it as you see fit. But essentially, this would, I think, kind of match how the PO would do it as they divide their expenses evenly, with the exception of, okay, we're back. So you can see that they pay periods, and you can see that there are certain months where there are 3 pay periods that there are larger amounts in November and I guess in May 2020. Now, academic salaries is locked, but supplemental comp is not. And I can select even. I can go and select history and just change that. Hit refresh. And that should go through and change that individual spread amount. And then, of course, I can go in and select entry and just overwrite any amount that seems possible. So that looks like, based upon that, it wasn't like an even spread. Let's see something. For some reason, that is not evening up. Let's see if I do this. History. That's what I did. Refresh. Or hit spread budget amounts. But it's really pretty straightforward. While this calculates, I'm going to unmute you all and ask if there are any questions at this point.
Andy?
Yes.
Hi. Question. Academic salaries are locked.
By pay
so
period.
What if I need to make it, so for example, I have a faculty member I know who's only going to be here 9 months because we're not hiring them until the middle of the academic year, and that's how I budgeted it. How do I update the budget spread so that when the PO asks, why do you have less salaries than you budgeted, it's because I haven't hired the faculty member yet?
Yeah, I would say, and I'm going to hit save, and that should kind of redo everything. One of the things we can do, and I'm kind of hesitant to do this, but if there are others who are in that same situation, I totally understand what you're saying, Kathy, is I can kind of go through and unlock academic salaries and kind of make it a wide open field. I've been waiting as long as possible to do that, because actually when we go through and do that and unlock a field like this, we are unlocking it in every instance. So if you went back and created a new base request form for like a new fund, it would kind of go through and do the same thing. So, we can certainly do that. And, I probably will if there are others who have, because that'll be the only way of actually changing that.
Okay.
So we will go ahead and do that, but I just need to make you aware of the global implications of that. Now most people have completed their budgets, and so it shouldn't be an issue. And this will not change any fund that has been moved into final. And so I can certainly do that, and what I will then also need to do is unlock those fringe benefit fields also, because you can't change one without changing the other. So, any other questions at this point? All right, I'm going to put you back on mute. Then I have to go and actually unmute myself. Okay, so you can see that you can go through and change pay periods, history, even. As I said, this June 2020 will always kind of balance out so that you will not exceed or go under your budget. So I can go through and you can kind of see what happens if I go globally. If you go history, it should look at, the rate that you spent things last year and kind of mimic it. I think what that's probably good for is medical supplies, office supplies, anything you kind of buy in bulk just a couple times a year. You may want to do some sort of sequencing based upon that. You know, as that kind of cycles through, I can point out some other things. You know, the revenues work exactly the same way, and I'll go to that in a second. You know, it's so much simpler than the actual budgeting aspect of this. So hopefully you'll find it the same way. I did send out the manual, and so you have that. You can kind of see, well, there's looks, you know, you go into fringe benefits and some of this other stuff. Photo services. You know, you can see that in November last year they spent $1,500, so that's when it was spent. You can kind of see in other supplies, office supplies, postage, how that stuff works out. So, you know, and then that nothing is stopping me from kind of putting in $500 here. But if I put $500 here, this it'll be interesting to see what happens to the June 2020. So let's see if I hit save. It should come back. It might even have a negative number because of the fact that with the spread, I might have gone over the budget. Okay. When this comes back, I will then kind of go to show you the export and how to work with that. As I said before, it's much simpler and more straightforward. So go back here. Yes, you can see that in office supplies, because I put $500 and there was only 266 missing, that there's a negative budget of $134 for the spread for June, so that you keep inside the $10,000 budget. Okay. So I'm going to show you what happens if you wanted to export. Go into edit mode. And once it unlocks, you can then hit the export button and then export it into a spreadsheet. Hit export, Excel. You'll get the message, do you want to open? Excel will open up. The file format extensions don't match. You can still say yes. Come in, enable editing, and then you can kind of go through, you know, like you have to do with the other spreadsheet. You need to remove the text where it says false, leaving the column heading. You need to delete the yellow row. And then I could come in, and for the sake of this, I'm just going to show you what happens. Put $500 in for everything. File, save as, and you have to save this as a CSV file. Test, upload spread, hit OK, hit yes. Okay, so I can now go to upload data, browse for the file, and then import CSV. And if there was any problems, you know, that I didn't delete everything, it would come back and you'd get some sort of error message. And once again, either I can append the data or replace the data. Replace the data is probably, I think, what you'd use more often, which is where you, essentially that's saying, let's wipe out what's there before and, you know, then kind of go in and hit replace, and I'll just put what's on the spreadsheet. So let me go hit replace. You see that it went to 500, and I could hit save, and it would actually take. Let's see what happens if I hit save. I can always then respread after that. You can see what happens to the June 2020 budget. It'll be interesting to see if it overwrites it or if it actually maintains the calculation. And I am just as eager to find out as you all are. So while this is happening, let me unmute you all and see if you have any questions.
Andy?
Yes.
I created a couple of accounts in budget spreads, but I'm only seeing salary and fringe. Is that supposed to happen?
So, I mean, did you budget OTTS?
Yeah.
And they've been moved to final, correct?
Yeah, we submitted our budget, yeah.
So why don't you send me a couple of examples, and I can, work with you offline and see if there's any issues.
Okay.
But you can see just doing this, that the $500 kind of overrode everything, including the academic salaries. And actually, Kathy, in thinking about this may be a way that you can kind of, as opposed to opening up the academic salaries, just do it through a spreadsheet and spread it as how you'd want to have it spread.
Okay.
So, but I can open up the academic salaries. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about what the impact may be, but if need be, I can certainly do that.
So in that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I wasn't sure if I was muted. So in that case, let me try to do it this way rather than opening up the academic salaries.
Okay.
And if there's a problem, I'll let you know. Second
Please
question.
do.
We're doing the same thing for new monies forms that we budgeted?
So the new monies forms. What will happen on the new monies form is that I think either Carissa or Jeanette have kind of reached out to find out if you created the 9 form, like the actual 9 fund.
Okay.
So I think if that's been done, the order of process will be we move the new monies form, the temporary fund to the 9 fund. And then once it's loaded to the 9 fund, it'll be brought back and you can do a budget spread.
Got it.
Now, as you may have, since it's a new fund, you may not know, you won't have any historical data. So you can spread it evenly or, by pay periods or however you see.
Okay.
And
okay. Sure.
Let's say you upload the Excel worksheet and you change the numbers just like you did, and it's incorrect. How do we go back to the default budget spread?
I would say I'll show you how to do it. Just go to Edit. I think what will happen is you go back to Edit and just hit Respread, Spread Budget Amounts, and it should overwrite. But let's check. So I just hit the history. I imagine the pay periods will, I assume that everything will overwrite and that'll go back to where it was. Or if worse comes to worse, you could redo the spreadsheet and then just re-upload if you want to do it all at once. So that's the other way of doing it. Any other questions while we're waiting for this to come back?
Yeah, Andy, I have a quick question. So is there a way to do it if we wanted to change the spread method for all of the funds in our department, or would we have to do it like fund by fund?
It has to be done at this point. Until we, and we're looking at changing the architecture of the system. Yeah, you can see it goes back to the original spread, or however it was, or however you use the global spread method. It has to be done fund by fund. Only because each fund you may want to do a different spread method depending on the particulars of that fund. Now there's nothing stopping you just going in and choosing even, if that is the easiest and quickest way to do it. But you may get comments back from the PO as for variances. I personally like history because I think that you know, it kind of reflects more how the actuals were spent last time. But, you know, whatever works for you guys. You can see, like, once again, in facts, there was $250 spent in November, and they're just putting the other $250 in June. But there's nothing stopping you from just putting 125 here, 125 here, and then, you know, you can see the impact that this now goes down to 0. So
Right.
that's how that works.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point?
Yes, Andy, can you hear me?
Of course.
Hi, it's Natasha from Urology. Quick question. With the budget spread, how often can we go in and adjust it?
So, okay, so you will do this once, okay, the original budget spread. But Natasha, that is a great question, because what will happen probably in mid-October, mid to late October, is that we will ask for your first forecast. And what this will be, it'll be a very similar screen, and it'll work just like the budget spread. But what will happen is the only difference is that you'll also have these global spread methods, and you can also then do a percentage increase, is that this June 2020 column will be essentially unlocked. Because what will happen is that you'll be able to, the spread keeps you within your budget. No matter what happens, it'll be what your budget is. What the forecast does, it allows you to exceed or better perform your budget on both the revenues and expenses. So it really will be a true forecast. But it'll work pretty much just like this. And so what I'm saying is that if we do it as of September, which will be, you know, during the October month after September close, you'll be reforecasting out these outstanding months. So I hope that answers your question.
Sort of.
And also be an early warning into the forecasting.
Okay.
And after that, there's nothing stopping you from going in and reforecasting. Probably what we'll do is we'll do a first quarter forecast, a second quarter forecast, and depending on what the PO wants to do when we go into the next budget cycle, you know, next February, is a third quarter forecast that'll then be used as part of your budget submission.
Okay, sounds good.
So, all right, excellent. Any other questions?
Hey, Andy.
All right, I will. Oh, go on.
For fringe, can fringe be front-loaded automatically?
You know, that is, I guess we can open all those up. Or, as I said, maybe use the spreadsheet if, you know, once Kathy or once I kind of go through and see if that can be done, that may be a better way of using the spreadsheet for. And then, I think I said for the budgeting part of it that the spreadsheet may not be any faster. I think in the budget spread, the spreadsheet may be a better way to go, especially as you want to, you know, it may be quicker for you to manipulate the system than going and doing cell by cell.
Okay, so it won't.
But I think I understand exactly what you're saying because of the way SAP then kind of front loads the fringes, and then there may be a huge, credit as the person hits the meta tax threshold.
Right.
So, excellent question.
Yeah.
And like I said, Kathy will try. I will also try. But I think you'll be able to use the spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay. So it's not automatic. You would just do it on the spreadsheet?
No, although, that is definitely something that we're going to have to look into programming because it's a real thing. Or either we have to change the SAP system to not do that. So we need to change one of the systems to better match up the reality to the budget. But I understand exactly the point you're raising.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions as I continue on? All right. I'm going to put you on mute. Okay. So if if I then go to the revenue spread, it's going to be very similar. I can do a spread amount. You know, it works exactly the same way. So it's a little quicker because there are fewer lines. We can kind of go through and then go through and change. Once again, you need to remember revenues are in minus amounts, are negatives. The adjustments, the accruals are in positives. Like all of our SBP screens, we have a screen for narrative. You can attach attachments, and there's also history to see who's gone in and done what. And so you can see that it's been me kind of mucking around in pathology's fund. Let me go back to the expenditure spread. You know, quite honestly, I think that's it. We will control the stages like we did for the budget process. So we can do that en masse. So when you're done, you know, just let me know and we can move everything to the different stages. One of the things I did not mention in my email was when you have to do this. I would say probably you have till I'll need to check with the PO, but I would say till the end of September. Should give you enough time to kind of go through and do this process. So, and in certain ways, because of those departments that have lots of funds, the spreadsheet might be the quickest way of doing it. So, let me open it up to final questions. I think I've gone through and looked at, you know, all the functionality. As I said there, you can't add new GLs. You can't do a lot of stuff that you can do on the budget screen because of the fact that it's an approved budget. So let me unmute you all and see if there are any additional questions.
Andy?
Yep.
Okay, so we are doing this fund by fund for all of our PO funds.
Correct.
Is there a way to download a report that shows all those funds in one snapshot, the same way that the PO is looking at us?
You know, yes, we are working on essentially what will be the PO budget statement format.
Okay.
So essentially you'll be able to create, you know, the similar form that we did for the PO budget statement will be for, you know, will be for this. Now, the data that I will be giving the PO will probably be just exports, or they'll go in and export it out. So, or I'll do the base request form kind of thing, the view of that. So we are working on that now. So we will certainly have that by the end of this month.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
Andy, is this going to be reflected in SAP, the PO fund statement?
No.
I'm assuming no.
No, this is strictly within SBP, and really, like I said, the purpose of this is to give the PO this data as opposed to them coming up with your spread. So that's the purpose of this. So, but you know, in the future. So one of the things that's going on now is that Qatar, our Qatar campus, is also implementing SBP, and they have much fewer funds, but they are taking a different approach. So they have a form, and I haven't looked at it yet, but they have a form that combines both the budgeting process and the spread process, which is something that if it looks promising, we could do it in one step. Now, what I don't know is how the screen looks. Whether it's really hard to work with or so on and so forth. But it's a long way of saying that SAP can accept monthly budgets. So it is possible, not this year, but maybe for the next cycle, that we could go through and load the monthly budgets directly into the general ledger. So whether that gets you anything or whether you would find that helpful, you know, we'll kind of go through the process and, you know, and see if that's doable. But, you know, but certainly for right now, it's just going to be for pretty much the PO's information.
Okay.
Or
And-
you can use it too for your own analysis.
Yes. So if I use it for my own analysis, even for that, would I be able to go into BI Launch and pull my budget by fund or even like a total?
So you can well, this will have your budget by total, the budget spread form. Yes, as I mentioned, we are working on reports that you'll be able to do.
Okay. Do we have to do this for the discretionary funds as well, the ones you had us do after the budget process?
No, this is only for your clinical 9 funds.
Okay.
Now, having said that, if you want to do it for any fund you have, knock yourself out.
Thank you.
Andy, this is Kamini. I have a question. So this process that is happening will be given to PO office by the 9 funds, and then when the budget that is uploaded in the system in SAP BI reporting, and when we are comparing it to actual, it would not have the same spread, correct? So if I want to do a comparison on a monthly basis for John or for Dr. Stieg, I have to download this by month, by PO fund, and then reconsolidate every single thing, and then present a comparison. Is that what I'm hearing, or not?
Well, I think what will happen is that, and I may have to speak to, I'm not sure I'm quite understanding community, but, we can certainly speak after this meeting to make sure I understand. But if I am understanding, the monthly stuff kind of stays in SBP. Now, what will happen is that you will get your official reporting from, the PO business office, the monthly reports that you get, but it will utilize this spread. The spread that you put in SBP will be the spread that the PO uses for their monthly reports.
So if I can ask Andy, so in effect, the PO will be giving us monthly reports that include the budget to actual.
Correct. And, when they come in and do their monthly, because they do a monthly spread,
Yes.
They will use this data. Previously they would come up with their own spread.
Because I
understand, but how do we see the consolidated number and it's correct to check it back? Because what happened, and I have experiences in the past where the data sometimes does not reconcile, where I will pull a report out from SAP, and when I'm comparing it, there are inconsistencies. So how do we go back and check to answer the question that they're asking us?
So this has nothing to do with actuals. So this is only, yeah.
I understand that, but this is budget and it's being spread a certain way by fund. But when they're looking at the data, they're looking at consolidation. So if they're looking at this as a consolidation and this is spread by fund, and we don't have that data, so when we are answering the question, how would I be able to answer the question if I'm not seeing the data by a consolidation from my point of view to go back and answer the question from a monthly standpoint?
Right. I'll have to talk to the PO because that's kind of more of a PO issue in terms of the data they give back to you because they're just giving you the consolidated. How do you do it now? If they come back with a question, how do you answer that now? Because right now they're doing the spread.
Right. Because what I do, I download the SAP data that is uploaded now, and I spread it by month. I do it by month, and then I straight line it by month, and then I look and see where the variables are, and then I go back to them and I ask them questions on how they came up with their number. And then there are times when their budget doesn't match my budget, and I'm like, well, if my budget is this, and this is what I submitted and approved, why is your number not correct?
Well, like I said, they should tie, first of all, the budget should tie to what was loaded, what you submitted should tie to what's in SAP. And so, let me think a little bit about that, and, I'll probably give you a call in the next day or so to kind of to discuss this further.
Okay.
Andy, I think this all goes back to the same to my question about reporting. When will those reports be available that we can download all
Right.
of our 9 funds and see what the bottom line is?
Let me check with ITS.
Okay.
And I think that would help, Andy, is the BI report, so that when they do come back with the consolidated number, we can actually go into the BI report to say, okay, let me see by fund
Right.
where the
Yeah.
variances are. Because right
Yeah.
now
Correct.
we do it from SAP with the straight line method, and then we say, okay, here's where variances are. Once you have those reports, it'll help us to say, okay, wait a minute, this is
Definitely.
where
Yep.
variances are versus, the spread.
No, I think I definitely understand that. And I think, if we get a report that essentially mirrors the PO budget statement, which you could put funds into different columns and do all that, pivoting and stuff, that should give you the information. Budget to actual.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Andy.
Well, thank you very much. You can always reach out to myself or Carissa or Jeanette if you have any questions, and I will certainly be back in touch with all of you regarding the reporting, as well as if Kathy tries something, as well as I trying to see what happens about the salaries. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy your Wednesday, and happy spreading.
Thank you, Andy.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Bye-bye.
So,